What is going on, guys? Link and I back for another video today. Now today's video is incredibly long overdue. I promised you this video like almost a year ago, if not over a year ago. This is my review of the 2015 Honda CBR300R. There's actually a couple of reasons why I'm making this video today. One of which being the fact that I'm actually looking to sell this bike so that I can upgrade to a 600, which is obviously expected when you own a 300. The other reason that I have a friend who is trying to get into riding. He just took the MSF course and he is looking at getting an R6 for his first bike, and I am telling him he is absolutely retarded for that. So Alex, if you're watching this video, don't do it. Now, I absolutely hate to talk while I'm at a stoplight, but to be completely honest with you, I'm pretty sure my GoPro is almost dead, so I need to make use of all of the video time that I can possibly get, so I probably will be doing some talking at stoplights, just a fair warning. So, I have owned this bike for a year and some change. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I went with a 300 for my first bike. You know, obviously when I was looking at getting a bike, I was looking at some videos of people that were talking about, you know, should you get a 300 for your first bike? Should you get a 600 for your first bike? You know, I did a fair amount of research before I pulled the trigger on this bike. Now, when it comes to getting a 300 versus a 600, there are a lot of things that you need to take into consideration. I'm not going to get into those things, but with me being kind of a smaller guy, I'm about 5'10" and 120 pounds. I'm not a huge guy, so I knew a 300 would be enough power for me. And I am definitely 100% happy that I went with a 300 for my first bike. I'm very happy I went with this bike for my first bike. Hey, they fixed that bump in the road, and that's cool. But as far as Honda goes, their bikes, their power sport stuff, even their cars are fairly bulletproof. As long as you keep oil in it, it will go forever. And that is the case with especially their bikes. Honda makes very good power sport equipment, including motorcycles. Now, when you go with a 300, it's going to be a lot lighter than something like a 600. And when you're looking at getting your first bike, that's what you want. You want something that is going to have very controllable power and something that is going to be incredibly light and easy to maneuver. Because when you're first starting out on a bike, you're not going to know a lot of things, regardless of how much dirt bike experience. You know, that's something that I hear a lot of people say. They say, oh man, I've been riding dirt bikes for like, you know, 17 years. You know, obviously I'm going to know how to control a motorcycle. That is true to an extent. However, when you are riding on the street, you get thrown into situations where you don't know what to do. And when you are a new rider, you don't want to be concerned about trying to control power or trying to hold up a certain amount of weight. So, the Honda CBR300, first off, it's fuel injected. You know, a lot of people will start on something like a Ninja 250 or whatever, but those are carbureted. And I'm not sure, don't quote me on this, but I want to say the CBR250 is also fuel injected. I'm not 100% sure on that. I will include in the video whether it is or not. Now, a common complaint that I hear a lot of people say, and you know, when people are asking, should I start on a 300, should I start on a 600, something that a lot of people like to use as their argument for not to start on a 600 bells, is they say, oh, you're gonna get tired of the power of a 300 really quick. You know, a lot of people, even at like motorcycle dealerships, will say somebody will buy a 300, within 3 weeks they return it and they say, I got tired of the power. And I guess you kind of need to consider what kind of riding you're going to be doing. For me, I'm not trying to do wheelies at 60 miles an hour. I ride to work and back. You know, I go on, you know, little rides with my friends and stuff, but I don't ride with groups of assholes. I'm not, you know, lane splitting at 100 miles an hour. You know, we're following the laws and stuff. So if you're just going to be riding for transportation, you're not going to need a 600. I don't even need a 600. Like, I would be absolutely happy with keeping this bike for another couple of years because it's absolutely perfect for what I do. I ride to work, and occasionally I ride just for fun. So the power of the 300 is absolutely perfect for what I need. It's got enough power to have some fun on. I'm sure if you go back into some of my videos, I've included little clips of me getting on the throttle, and I'm hitting 70, 80 miles an hour fairly fast. I have I have a 2019 Charger RT with the 5.7 Hemi, and then I have a friend with a Scat Pack Challenger, so he has the 6.4, and he and I raced straight up one time, just like from a dig, and I beat him off the line. I was ahead of him for quite a while, but then at the top end where this sort of thing kind of lacks and I start getting higher up in the gears, he did end up catching up to me and passing me. But I mean, it was a decently close race. I mean, he definitely won. But it's like, you know, the 300, a lot of people think it has little to no power, but that's really not the case. It has enough power to have fun on. It has enough power to do wheelies. I've done a wheelie on this thing in first gear, and I got the wheel really high up in the air. I scared the piss out of myself, so I slammed it down and hit my nuts on the gas tank, and that didn't feel good. But it has enough power to do wheelies fairly easily. And like I've said, it's a very lightweight bike. It's easy to maneuver, so if I need to, you know, make a really quick swerve, it's going to be really, really easy to do. And when I'm coming up to stoplights, I'm not trying to balance a lot of weight. And there are definitely a lot of times where I've gotten into situations where I was like, if I had a 600, I probably would have looped the piss out of it. I probably would have crashed or laid down this bike. But because I have a 300 where I'm not focused on trying to control the power, I'm able to focus more on maneuvering and making split-second decisions. A 300 is going to be a lot better. Oh god, that was a huge bump. A 300 is going to be a lot better for a beginner rider. So now that I've gotten into the nuances of whether you should start on a 300 or a 600, like I said I wasn't going to do, let's actually get into the review part of this bike. This bike has a very, very comfortable seating situation. I've noticed there's a slight difference between the Ninja 300 versus the CBR300. I feel like the Ninja 300 is a little bit more of an upright bike. I feel like I'm sitting up a little more, whereas on the CBR300, I feel like I'm leaned over a little more. I also think the seat is kind of sloped downward a little bit more towards the gas tank. So I almost feel like the CBR300 has a little bit more of a sporty seating position. The suspension is also very comfortable. It's not super stiff, yet it's not super soft. So it's like when I'm going over bumps like this, like I'm sure you can definitely see them in the video simply because I have the Hero 4 Silver and every little bump comes across really bad in the video. Notice that while editing. But you know, when I hit bumps, it doesn't hurt. And living in Lincoln, Nebraska, it looks like all of our roads had landmines in them at one point in time because of all the potholes that they just patch instead of actually fixing. But like riding to and from work, which my work is about 13 miles from my house, so I'm riding through the city, I'm not in pain and I'm not uncomfortable at any point during the ride. It's not super leaned over to the point that you have all of your weight on your wrists, yet you do have some weight on them because you are leaned forward a little bit more. And a lot of people kind of disagree with me on this one, but I really do like the way that the CBR300s sound. I think it does kind of depend on the exhaust because I have a Yoshimura full system, so header, catless mid-pipe, and slip-on. And it's got a nice deep tone. Like I'm sure everyone's probably heard a Ninja 300 that has aftermarket exhaust on it. It's almost kind of a buzzy higher sound, whereas this has more of a deeper throaty sound because of the difference in the engine. The Ninja 300 has a parallel twin 300cc, whereas the CBR 300 has a one-cylinder 300. So it's a bigger piston, so you're going to get a much more deeper sound. And you know, some people will say that it sounds like a dirt bike, which I mean I will agree with, it really kind of does. But once you're actually in person, it doesn't sound as bad as some of the YouTube videos will make it out to sound. And that was almost what made me steer away from the CBR300. Like I came across this one and I was like, man, it's a really good deal, but it's a CBR300. I don't like the way they sound. But so I went, I talked to the guy anyway, he started it up, he revved it a couple times. I was like, damn, that actually sounds pretty decent. And that is the problem with a lot of videos. Videos will never do exhaust justice for how loud or the kind of the overtones that they have. It just does not come across very well in video. So going on to the handling, like I've said, the CBR300 is a very, very lightweight bike. That's the thing that a lot of people will say to me. Like my friend Alex, who's looking at getting a bike, he was actually looking at buying this one, and he sat on it, he's like, oh my god, that is really light. And I was like, that's what you want. You want a lightweight bike that's going to be easy to maneuver if you ever need to do anything. I love how everybody comes screeching to a halt the second a police officer goes by, because that's not shady at all. Oh yay, my video's still going, cool. Like I said, it gets up and goes. And it's probably maybe at 3 to 4 seconds and I hit 60 like it was nothing. I mean, obviously it's not going to be as fast as the 600. Like, obviously, you know, it's not even comparable. But it's enough power to have fun on, and I really want to get that across to people, that don't be scared to get a 300 because you're going to get tired of it within a week. That's not the case. I would be absolutely fine keeping this bike for another couple of years. It's an easy bike to ride. It's a lot of fun. It looks really good. I love the way the CBR300s look, because they look really close to the CBR1000s of this same generation. Would I recommend this bike? Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic beginner bike, and there's even a lot of really seasoned riders that have been riding for years, and they'll get a 300 because of how easy they are to ride in the city. Obviously, if you're doing a lot of highway riding, a CBR300 probably is not going to be a good bike for you because it is very steeply geared. Doing about 5,000 RPMs at 6th gear, that's about 45 miles an hour. You can get up and you can do 65. I rode this on the highway before, but now you're wrapping out maybe a little closer to 6,500 to 7,000 RPMs. And I mean, that's kind of getting up there. That's about half of the RPM range. It gets a little uncomfortable at that point in time. You start getting a little bit of seat buzz. It vibrates a little bit, which, I mean, you know, some people are kind of into that. But overall, fantastic bike. I really have no complaints about the CBR300. Let's see what this baby can do. And I still had another gear to go. Okay, so I'm back. I found a friend. It's Katie again. You know her. But going back to kind of what I said earlier about really kind of think about what kind of riding you're going to be doing. Like, if you're going to be riding in groups and doing poker runs and that sort of stuff, like the CBR300 probably would not be a good bike for that, because it, like I said, it has very steep gearing. And so, you know, I think top speed on the bike is like 94 miles an hour. So if you're going to be doing like a lot of highway riding, obviously you're not going to want to get the CBR300. It's not really designed for that. It will do highway. Like I said, I've done highway on this before, but it's not really comfortable when you're doing it. So if you're going to be doing that sort of thing, if you're a bigger person, you know, you're probably going to want to go with something that's a little larger displacement. However, if you're just going to be doing average city riding, you don't need to have a higher top speed. You know, this would be the perfect bike for you. But I am definitely glad that I did start on this bike, because, you know, I had some street riding experience before I bought this bike. Like, I did take the MSF course, but I had a friend who had just tossed me the keys to his Ninja 300 before I even took the MSF course. I didn't even have my actual motorcycle endorsement at that point in time. I just had my learner's permit. But he would just toss me the keys to his Ninja 300 and he'd be like, go ride it. And I would ride it around the city. So I had a little bit of riding experience under my belt. And I definitely felt like I handled the power of the 300 very well. And I was telling myself, I was like, I could probably start on like an R6 or something like that. But looking back on it, I am definitely glad that I didn't do that. Because, you know, a lot of people, they think, oh yeah, I'd be perfect to start on a 600 or whatever. But in all reality, you probably don't want to. It's actually something that I heard from a seasoned rider who had been riding for probably like 20 plus years. He said when you start on a smaller bike, you learn how to actually ride better because you're not focused on trying to control the power. When you're focused on trying to control the power, you aren't focused on your actual riding. So you develop as a rider a lot faster and a lot better. Let's ask Katie here. She has the same bike. Katie, what do you think of the bike? CBR300, what's your thought? It's a good learner bike? Well, you heard it from her. So that's the verdict. The CBR300 is a great starter bike, and we both highly recommend it. Well guys, thanks for checking out my video. If you want to see more videos in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching guys, and we will see you later.